You see this? Look at me, son. It's not your fault.
I know.
No, you don't. It's not your fault.
Since the inception of the RTS genre, there's been one group of gamers that have been consistently overlooked more than any other group on the planet. I'm of course talking about team gamers. The devs just don't seem to care about us, which is something I never really understood, especially when you consider the fact that we are far and away the majority of online players in pretty much every RTS game out there. That is, if we exclude the truly oppressed group, the co-op gamers. The thing is, in Age of Empires 4, balancing is mostly done around 1v1s. Civ Design is focused around 1v1s. Map design is focused around 1v1s. Hell, even the campaigns are focused around 1v1s. And this is the reason why your heart stuck gold. It's totally not because you're floating 3k of each resource instead of making units.
It's not your fault.
But for real though, team games could definitely use some work in AOE4, and I've been hard at work surfing Reddit, posting on the forums, and gathering intel from the community to compile this list. The top 5 features that Relic needs to add to the game to make team games great again. Because we matter.
With the glass ceiling broken, all the oppressed groups shall prosper, especially the most oppressed group of all,
Team
gamers.
Number 1, team colors. I know I'm not alone in experiencing this. I'll be in the middle of a fight when all of a sudden I get flanked by an army of knights, I have to retreat, and all of a sudden, oh, it turns out they're my allies. Or how about this, there's a massive team fight and I'm trying to figure out which side is winning. Is my side winning or is my side losing? But there's just a jumble of colors and I just can't figure out which colors are the good colors. It's honestly such a problem for competitive team games, and it seems like a really simple change. I don't get why the devs haven't implemented this yet. Just simply put cold colors on the one side, blue, teal, purple, and green, and warm colors on the other side. That's red, orange, yellow, and pink. That's it. Although low-key green is kind of a hard color to see in the game right now, so they should actually consider replacing it with like an ultramarine or something. But chill, you might be asking, there's already a team color option in the settings. Nah, I know you're not talking about that useless feature that makes everyone on the same team the same color. If you unironically use this setting, you're an actual menace to society. When I'm in a team game, I need to be able to see which players are focusing on which sides of the map, and I need to be able to easily call out to my teammates to target green or attack purple. Turning this setting on is unplayable. And I also learned recently that when it comes to team game tournaments in AOE2, this has apparently already become the standard. Anyways, while we're at it, let's go on to number 2. Let's also allow players to pick their positions before the match. The way it works right now is that you enter a team game and the map just randomly assigns you a position. But this can screw you over, especially if you're a boomy civ and you get placed in the front, or if you're an aggro civ and you get placed all the way in the back. And depending on the map, sometimes teams that high roll their placements just automatically win. The way it works instead is that during the match preparation screen, you have slots in your UI that allow you to pick the left side, the right side, the pocket, or the forward positions. And this would be so cool because it would allow you to strategize with your teammates and figure out different kinds of civ compositions to maximize your synergies. This means you can put your Bosset player in the back, you can put your English player in the front. At the very least, this should be a feature in custom games so that we can have actual competitive team game tournaments where things aren't just scuffed and randomized. Number 3, announcer and team screen. Alright, Age of Empires 4 is a pretty hard game to keep track of, especially when you're in a team game. There's so many things happening on the map all at once. In a 1v1, you're involved in pretty much every engagement, so you have a rough idea of which side is taking more positive trades. But in a team game, you might win multiple skirmishes for yourself, and you'll feel on top of the world, and you might be, but all of a sudden you'll get curb stomped by the enemy team, and you'll just have no idea why. And it's not until you see the post-scrim screen that you realize that the rest of your teammates have been taking 10-to-1 trades this whole time, and they've also been forgetting to build villagers. So how do we solve this problem? Well, copy what works for other games. In many multiplayer games, you'll hear an announcer that provides information whenever someone gets
Holy Jesus Christ.
and it's a really clear signal to help you understand which side's got the upper hand. Of course, in an RTS, announcing every death would be super spammy, so instead the game should just show you who's won a battle. I mean, we can see in the post-game screen that the game is technically already tracking this, so all that needs to happen is show notification on the side whenever a major engagement happens, and show roughly how well the trade went. What was the military power coming in, who won the trade, and how many losses were suffered. This way I have a rough idea of how the rest of my team is doing, even if I'm not panning across and and looking at them with my camera. At the least, we should have access to a tab screen similar to League of Legends, where you can keep track of your teammates' KD ratios. I just know this would be such a big help for me. And as an addition, it would also make sense to show a lot of other kinds of information as well. I want to see what my teammates' villager count is, what resources they're floating. I mean, currently if I want to figure out who to ask tribute from, or if I'm gathering resources for a wonder, I have to manually ask everyone in my Discord call to figure out what their resource counts are. Similarly, one of my teammates might have been knocked down to 10 villagers, and I just wouldn't have any way to see that unless I manually count as villagers or something. Number 4, better maps. If you watch this channel, you've probably heard me say this ad nauseum now, but Gorge is the best team game map in the game. And the reason why it's so good is because it groups the whole team together, and it places the two teams very close to each other, meaning that it really encourages a lot of combined team effort. Most of the other maps simply split into multiple 2v2s or even 1v1s, and it just lacks that kind of coordinated team cohesion. If I wanted to do a 1v1, I'd just play 1v1s. Team games should be about team battles, multiple armies, multiple compositions, everyone coordinating together. That's what I'm here for. Right now, Gorge is pretty much the only map that does that. Too many of the other maps are just 1v1 maps that got scaled up, and they simply don't work. Either the map is humongous and the teams are way too far apart, which heavily promotes this kind of late game eco play that results in this endless hour-long slog, or the teammates are spread so far apart that I basically don't care what's happening on my teammate side of the map at all. Please make maps that promote full team play, like Gorge, not the weird crap that we're getting right now. Number 5, Civ Design. The truth is, the Civ designs in the game right now were built for 1v1s. They don't always translate well to a team game setting. I mean, some civs, depending on the map, will just run away with the game, and it's just not balanced. For instance, most team game maps are very large, and as a result, boomy civs are really favored, like China or the Abbasids. Trade civs also overly benefit from having large, wallable team maps. But it actually goes even deeper than that. For instance, if you were to play Delhi, its design just doesn't work in a team game context. It's much harder to hold those sacred sites because they're so much farther away from your base, and everyone else can contest them as well. And if you have multiple Delhi players on the same team, you're basically just screwing yourselves over since you can't share sacred sites. Or even if it's not another Delhi player, if someone else on your team takes a sacred site away from you, you're just kind of screwed from your civilization bonus. Similarly with Rus. Having multiple Rus means you're competing with one another for hunts. And if it's not that, Rus is kind of messed up because it's pretty much guaranteed that you'll reach 500 bounty before hitting feudal age. I mean, even if the enemy team tries to deny you, there's just so many freaking deer on large team game maps that it just gives the Rus an outsized advantage. And then we have units like the Mongol Mongodai, a terrifyingly strong unit in team games thanks to its ability to quickly get around the map and raid everyone's eco. And so the devs actually went ahead and nerfed the Mongodai to the ground. But the end result is that they're nerfed so bad they basically never get used in 1v1s anymore, which is such a shame because it's such an iconic unit. I think the solution here is to recognize that team games are going to play much differently compared to 1v1s, and there simply needs to be different kinds of balancing numbers. After all, there's already a precedent for this in the game. Wonders will cost different resources depending on the size of the map. It just makes sense. Lastly, there is one feature that a lot of people have been requesting for a long time now, the ability to reconnect to a game. Everyone's been asking for it since even before AOE4 came out, and it makes sense. If you lost internet or if the game crashes, it's no fault of your own. It absolutely sucks then that you have to take an L. And not only will you be taking an L, but you're also letting down your whole team. And not gonna lie, the game does crash pretty often still. I mean, I crash about once every 100 games. And every single time it happens, I wish I could reconnect, but there's just no hope. Now, as much as I want this feature along with everyone else, I didn't include it in this list because I don't think it's going to happen. Yes, we do have examples of other games that have a reconnect feature, but there's quite a few things to keep in mind here. Games like MOBAs can transmit the network state of every single object in their game because there's relatively few network objects to keep track of. In comparison, RTSs, especially when it comes to team games, have hundreds if not thousands of network objects to keep track of. And this would mean that you'd have to send massive packets of information all the time. So to get around this, RTSs instead developed something known as deterministic lockstep, where each computer runs its own deterministic simulation of the game. This means that with the same input, every single simulation will have the same exact output. And all you'd need to do then is network the inputs. So as long as you send over your inputs to my simulation, my game will look exactly the same as your game. And unfortunately, what this means is that if you wanted to reconnect, your computer would have to go through and re-simulate pretty much everything that happened in the game. And if you had a game that was at the 50-minute mark, you'd have to ask everyone else to pause the game and wait for quite a long time while your simulation tries to catch up. It's just not realistic. And that being said, there are modern solutions to this. For instance, For Honor uses something known as simulation snapshots. Basically, it's a bundled version of the simulation, and it'll help you speed up that simulation catch-up process. So in other words, reconnecting can be done, but it also depends on the game, it depends on the engine, and if the game wasn't released with this feature already, it's honestly probably too much effort. You'd have have to rewrite a ton of shit just to get this to work. And I love playing team games in AOE4, but even I don't think you could justify the amount of effort it would take to add this feature. That being said, pausing would be nice. I don't see any reason why they don't have pausing in this game. At the least, it should be a toggle for custom games. Anyways, that's my list. All of the things the devs should add to AOE4 to make team games great again. And definitely some are easier to implement than others. What do you guys think? What features would you want to see? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, I definitely appreciate a like and subscribe. Anyways, until next time, stay frosty out there, stay chilly.